I'm Ram Akali, founder and CEO of Confidence Wealth. And today we're going to do a presentation on an issue that has been highly overlooked in our thinking about the market, about our planning, about our net worth, and mainly about the future and what's to come. And that topic is the federal budget deficit. So what I'm going to attempt to do in this presentation is I'm going to show you some very logical, basic points that I use a lot of research to figure out and to look into. But I want to bring it to you in a very, very concise manner. And I want to make that presentation more basic and to the point, to make those points clearly to you so that you would get a sort of an understanding of where things are going. So my objective of this webinar and presentation is for you to conclude anything you need as far as the state of the future when it comes to your overall plans, whether it's financial plans, whether it's retirement plans, whether it's your net worth planning, whether it's your business planning, or anything to do with relationship to your financial life. And I would say your financial future and the organization of that future to make it better for yourself. So what the outcome should be that you would be able to make some decisions or something that could relate to something that could be helpful to you. And that's what I hope to get out of this. So let's get started. As you all know, the federal deficit had grown drastically. And I'm going to show you some numbers and stats on that one, showing you that we are reaching record levels. And the anticipation is that we are going to be reaching levels haven't even been seen since World War II. And that's according to the Government Budget Office. But let's go to the basics. And let's look at two aspects of the economy that I think you should be considering, which is one of them is obviously the federal budget deficit. And then let's take a look at the stock market. And let's try and see if we can establish a relationship between the two to a degree. So let's take the stock market first. When it comes to the stock market is technically a number. What does that mean? It means a lot of the perceptions that you have about the stock market or about a specific company stock is a number. So the Dow Jones Industrial Average has this number. The S&P 500 has got that number. Another way to look at the market is in terms of your equity holdings or other holdings. So it would be my XYZ stock is at that price. That company that I hold is that price. This bond is that price. This particular instrument has this price. So it's a number. The stock market in general, for your purposes, is no more than a number. Let you and I go through a little bit of an exercise. I will demonstrate to you scientifically that this number has a relationship to a degree to the budget deficit. And I'm also going to go through a little bit of an exercise to explain to you the impact of that number on the overall economy and the overall federal budget deficit and on your financial picture and on your net worth and your future, financially speaking. So let's get started with that one. Let's look at any equity holding you hold in your portfolio, any stock. Let's take it to the smallest common denominator. What are they trying to do? What is the company that you're holding trying to do? No matter what business they're in, and I don't care what they are. I'm going to tell you what it is. They're trying to sell something. No matter how good their intentions, no matter how good their model, no matter what they're doing, no matter how much research, no matter how much products they're trying to create, they have one objective for their survival, which is a reasonable one, is selling. They want to sell. They want to sell product. If it's a company that's making computers, they want to sell computers at the end of the day. They improve it. They get employees. They get support so they can sell that to you or to others. If it's a software company, they want you to buy it. If it's a healthcare company, they're a hospital chain, they want hospital beds to be used and a price paid for them. Don't overlook the fact that it's a hospital, that they're not selling you a bed. Because if they don't sell you a bed, whether you pay for it, or the government pays for it through Medicare, or whether some other form an insurance company is paying for it, in the end, they are selling you something. If they don't sell enough beds and they don't sell enough services, they're going to close down. And by the way, it is not uncommon for a hospital to close down. Not normal, but it happens. I've seen many hospitals close down. There are smaller hospitals, there are bigger hospitals. There are many of those that has closed down. Now, it's a tougher business to close down because people need those services and they're willing to pay the price for the item they're selling, which is the beds and the physician services and surgeries and you name it. So you and I established logically and reasonably that companies exist to sell. If they don't sell, they can't pay their employees and they can't make money. If they're going to sell, they must have another party that buys from them. And who's that? It's a customer. Whether it's you, whether it's your neighbor, whether it's somebody in a different state, whether it's a bunch of people around the country, they got to be selling to somebody. They got to sell to a customer. Without a customer, a company can produce all the products it wants, but if there are no buyers, what's the point? Here's what's going to happen if there's no buyer. They're going to have to close down at some point. First, they're going to have to lay off some employees, they're going to close down. But ultimately, the objective of a company is to sell a product to someone. And that someone could be anything from an individual to a business or any other form of a purchaser. Let's talk about the third component of what needs to be done here. For a company to sell, they have to have a customer, but we forget one more ingredient. The customer must have money. A customer that does not have money to purchase a product is not a real customer. It's an existing human being. So if a company is going to be able to sell a product, they got to have people, and they got to have people that have money or can afford to purchase what they built for that consumer. So what happens if companies find that there are a lot of people out there and they probably are willing buyers, but they don't have the money, or they don't want to part with their money because they don't have as much of it as they like to have. And the item that this company is selling would be somewhat disposable as far as the consumer goes. Well, that company wouldn't do very well because it can't find buyers for its products. And as I mentioned earlier, they're going to start first of all by either trying to figure out something they could sell. If they still can't, they're going to lay off some of their employees, then more employees. And one day they go, we can't sell enough. We're going to have to close down, and they all go. Okay. This all, by the way, is going somewhere. So you'll see where this is all a logical case I'm laying out to you to show you where some of the problems that we have here in this country right now and some of the problems that we may be facing in the future could be there and could occur and could be problematic for us. And we all hope none of these things would happen. But if they do, then we need to be obviously aware of what the possibilities are. So let's go back to the consumer. The consumer right now, we assume, in this case, doesn't have enough disposable income. But let's see why. Let me give you a potential scenario of why a consumer would have less disposable income. How could that impact your portfolio? Because the case I'm laying out to you, that the fact that consumers don't have enough disposable income, that those people that have nothing to do with you, you don't know them, they don't know you, could actually impact your net worth, your financial picture, and your ability to maintain a good living. Let me shift gears here, and I'm going to tie it to you. So I'm going to go to the federal budget deficit. So remember, we're left to the consumer right now that doesn't have enough money. We go to the federal budget deficit. What is the federal budget deficit? Let's talk about it for a second. I'm not going to go into any number right now because the number is getting bigger and bigger by the day. We know it's over $20 trillion and it's getting bigger and bigger. That number represents a debt the United States owes money to others. So let's just forget the United States as a nation, because there's a tendency for us, all of us, to think, oh, it's the government, it's got unlimited resources, it's always making money, there's always money coming in. And you kind of really don't think about it that much. I think it's some sort of an area that most people sort of have it in flux. They just kind of think about it, exists. It's a federal budget deficit, but not much thinking put into it. But I'm going to make you think about it in a better way. Take your situation and pretend you have a credit card debt, and you probably have one or may not have one. But let's say you have one that's small. And I'm just going to throw numbers randomly. Pretend you're a person that earns $200,000 a year. And let's pretend that you got a credit card for $10,000. And given that your expenses are normal, you're not going to have a problem paying the monthly payment for that one. I'm going to propose to you, if your credit costs to $50,000, I'd say it's okay. Maybe you're going to still make the payments. What if your credit card goes to $100,000? Well, okay. I don't know. Maybe. I think it's getting pretty dicey at that point. It's half your income. What if your debt goes up to $300,000? $400,000. Let's make it $400,000. Now what? Well, you got to service that debt. Well, at some point throughout that debt, you're going to probably just pay interest because you can barely keep up with the payments and the principal. You can't take it down. So just to keep going, so you're on default, the bank won't come in and take your home, take your car, and put a lien on you. What you got to do is actually just pay the interest. But at some point, even that interest has to be too heavy on you. Because not only you're spending money to live, You're servicing the interest, which is really huge. You need more money. So you got to go get more money. So you keep getting more money and you keep paying all. At some point, your creditor is going to say to you, I'm sorry, I can't give you any more. We're not worth the risk because I can't see where you get it. We established that there's a point you cannot afford it. Now let's go. So the federal budget deficit, at some point, if we're going to keep adding to it, people are going to look at us and go, where are you going to pay that from? So let's go to another issue here. If the federal government, if you want to, let's forget the federal government right now, the budget deficit, like the credit card debt. Call it credit card debt because it's not a credit card really, it's just the borrowing. But just compare it to a credit card debt that you would have. And you can picture yourself that way. Now, you have the credit card debt worth, let's make it up. Let's say it's worth $400,000. Your income is $200,000 and you got and by the way, I do know this is not pound for pound example, but I'm just really trying to illustrate to you what that looks like. So now let's look at what do you have to do to pay that debt down? To take it down either to zero or to take it down a little bit as you go. Well, for you as a person, you might have to go get another job. Whatever sources, let's say you have a job. Whether it's a job or a business, it really doesn't matter. But let's say you have a job. You go, now you're going to go, okay, well, I'm not making enough. So you go get a part-time job. Well, if that part-time job pays you a little bit extra, that extra isn't going to be enough to cover it. So the solution for you is to really find a way to find a job that gives you so much more money that it not only pays for your expenses, but also fees that credit card interest plus fees the principal until you get it down to zero. And you and I know if you're in that situation, it could take years to get out of something like that. If that, and many people can't even handle that burden. And quite frankly, it's unrealistic to think that all of a sudden you're going to go out there and going to make it all happen and just take it all down when you've gotten so much massive debt. And by the way, you probably won't be able to get into that massive debt easily because nobody will give it to you. But the federal government can. They can just go and keep getting more and more debt. And there are many reasons for that. And many of them are good reasons. But ultimately, I'm just trying to give you an analogy in here. So now we agreed that you're going to have a tough time. It'll take you for a very long time and possibly may not even happen. If it happens, probably you're lucky, but that's not normal. So let's go to the government. How do they satisfy, how do they close that federal budget deficit? Well, there's only one way. And in my experience, many people don't think about it. They kind of, unless you rush, unless you give the logic to them, they don't think about it. There's only one way for the federal government to be able to close the budget deficit. It's called businesses. And here's where I'm going to tie companies to you. I'm going to tie the companies to the deficit. I'm trying to show you a path in here. The way the government would close the federal budget deficit is by having businesses pay more tax revenue. Simple. That's one. I'm going to give you another one. And the second reason, when those companies make money, not only they pay a lot of money to the government in form of taxes to help the government pay for its services and also close that budget deficit, but they will also have their employees producing taxable income that they will contribute to the government, which pays, by the way, the government sometimes don't understand who's paying them. Lots of times people think the government just gets money from nowhere. There's only one source for the government is businesses, companies, like the ones you have in your portfolio, and small businesses and medium-sized businesses out there, by the way. It's all together coming to do that. But I am talking about major companies that you have in your portfolio because I want to tie that to the future of your holdings and assets. So if the solution to all this is our businesses, when businesses make money again, they give the employees go and spend that money somewhere. They spend maybe at the restaurants. They spend the restaurant, the busboy gets some money. He takes it and buys from somebody else. Somebody else gets the money and pay their employees. And the cycle goes and the government gets more money. And hopefully there's enough business to do that. But if the federal budget deficit keeps increasing like this, there's not enough business, as far as our understanding right now, that can cover that shortfall. The amount of money businesses are producing for the government is not sufficient even to pay the current budget deficit, let alone a growing budget deficit that's going to occur. That the government accounting office expects it to be bigger than what it was during World War II, bigger than the size of the GDP. That's how bad it is. So government has one choice. Think about it. Go with me on that one. Follow me on the logic. We said businesses produce money to give the government. Now the government is going to have to close the deficit, but it can't. So what is it going to do? Is going to have to do one thing. And what is that? It's going to go get more money. Well, how do you get more money? There's only one way. The government doesn't have any other tool except one called taxes. Think of it. Taxes. That's the only tool they have. They get taxes from companies and people, and they take it and feed the beast. So far, we establish a line between companies, the government, deficit, and taxes. Okay. So now the government has to raise taxes because it can't get enough money from businesses because businesses can only feed it so much. And of course, given the fact that the state of the way it is, like a lot of government regulations, a lot of things that hamper businesses, sometimes you're going to find businesses not doing very well. So now, what's going to happen? Government's going to raise taxes. Well, what happens when you raise taxes on people? And now we're supposedly on the lowest tax rates at 40% almost to 50% in some cases for businesses and individuals of high income. Now, there's talk about raising it 80 and 90%, which is likely with the government. I mean, they're talking 80, I heard 90, but let's say 80. Well, what do you think when we raise it to 80% on people and on businesses, whether in the same or in a different combination or however it works? What do you think is going to happen to businesses? Well, first of all, when people are being taxed more, when you tax more, you're going to have less money in your pocket. When you have less money in your pocket, what are you going to do? You're going to go, I'm going to spend less. That means you're going to choose the items that can help you keep your budget in check, because you're not like the government, you can just go spend what you want. Now what's going to happen is that companies that are trying to sell the products that they have, they're going to have to compete more, plus they might not find buyers and customers. Remember early on in my conversation, I mentioned to you that companies have to sell. So if they're trying to sell and the customer is saying, I don't want to buy that, I love it, I like it, but I only have 20% of my income left. Okay, and I got to spend on this, and that one, I guess I can do with that. I like it, but I'm not going to buy it. On a mass scale, that is going to hurt companies. What happens when there's companies? They don't sell as much. Well, now it becomes a double effect. So now they're not selling as much, and now they're paying less taxes because they'll have less sales. Plus, they might lay off a number of their employees because they don't pay them, because they don't have enough money to pay those employees. Now that the government's getting less money because there are less people working, or reduce their salaries because and then people are making less money, paying less taxes. And ultimately, the people that are down the chain, the restaurant owner, is not going to get that customer, that employee, because that employee doesn't want to spend the money, they eat home. And now the busboy doesn't get money to go spend somewhere else. See the logic? So now that we get that dynamic going on, the government not only is raising the taxes, but they're getting less money from businesses and employees and the people. That's the only source they got. So now what do? The government start reducing services, and businesses many cases go out of business, and you have a vicious cycle where things are getting worse and worse. That cycle, I propose to you, possibly could be take a long, long time to fix itself. It ultimately does. But during that, in my opinion, and our firm's opinion at Confidence Wealth, we believe that cycle could be very prolonged, and it's not easy to get out of. And we have been advising our clients to look into some of those dynamics that we look to. We have the extensive research behind it to see where this is going, to let them know of those possibilities. It's a possibility that we could have an extended period of time of lack of growth due to the fact that our federal budget deficit is where it is today and where it's going. And you have a Congress that's running like a drunken sailor, spending money on ridiculous things. You and I know that. You think about it. You know what ridiculous programs they're spending on. And sometimes nonsensical. And I'm not here to talk to you politics and Congress and this and that. We're just strictly talking financial. And if that is going on, you know how long it takes for Congress and for the government to wake up. And you know how long it takes for those financial markets to recover. And you know how long these things where it could be at. What we did is that obviously we're looking at all those dynamics, and we've been advising our clients on some solutions for that. And those solutions, we believe, are going to be helpful in protecting people from some of those dynamics that we're seeing. Now, our job is not to predict things. Our job is to look into them and make sure that our clients are protected. The job is not to eliminate, is to mitigate. And mitigation is something that you got to be very careful at, because lots of times you think you're mitigating something, but you're not. and you got to have people that know how to quantify risk. And in our firm at Confidence Wealth, we call it risk quantification. We work with many people that ask us for help to mitigate their risk and quantify their risk. So risk quantification is a big element of what we do here. What should you do right now? The first thing I think what needs to be done here is get a stress test. We conduct those, and we're happy to do one for you. So if you think anything I said here makes sense, if you think that there are possibilities, then give us a call. We'll be happy to help. The objective of this conversation with you is to give you something to think about, something we believe is real, something we believe is going to be possible, a very realistic possibility. I'm going to give you an idea of some things we could help you with. There is a proprietary process that we use, and it involves looking at the entire financial picture, and we've devised a number of proprietary strategies and solutions that, in combination in unison, will help you navigate some of those difficult times that may occur. And remember, when it goes well, everybody's happy. The problem is when it goes bad, and that's what we're here for. We're here to make sure that bad scenarios are mitigated to the best extent possible. So part of the strategies and solutions involve taxation, estate planning, alternative investments, purpose planning, advanced protection planning, and advanced wealth building strategies if you're a business owner. And if you're not, advanced strategies that are designed for the super wealthy and ultra wealthy that we've taken and we put together to help you navigate some of those potential adverse scenarios. So if you think you need help with that, again, my job is to educate you. My job is to show you the path. My job is to give you ideas. But if you really need help, give us a call. We'll talk. And we'll do gladly a complimentary stress test for you. It's not a simple thing. It takes time of our time to do it, and it will involve work. But we'll do it for you on a complimentary basis because we do want to help. Now, there might be some possibilities for us to do business, and if that happens, that's great. If it doesn't happen, that's okay too. Our objective is to be of help. What we will do is that we will actually take your entire scenario and plug it into our models to see how you would weather some of these bad situations and how it would work out for you. I hope this was helpful to you. I wish you the best, and I look forward to seeing you.